So one of the questions that we get a lot is what happens after a crash if I'm considered to be partially at fault? Now, this is a really important question, especially in a state like Colorado. And there's two different ways that this is handled by different states. I'm going to talk about Colorado first, and then we can talk more generally. We do handle cases all over the country. But in Colorado, where our law firm is based, Colorado follows this kind of the formal name, us lawyers call it modified comparative negligence. But what it really means is kind of a 50-50 rule. If you are 50% at fault or more after a crash or in causing a crash, you're 50% or more at fault in causing a crash, then you cannot make any claim against the person who was also involved in the crash. This means this collection of evidence and proving that you are less than 50% at fault is extremely important. Now, I also want to tell you that just because the other driver says you're 50% at fault doesn't mean you're 50% at fault. Just because the other driver's insurance company says you're 50% at fault doesn't necessarily mean you're 50% at fault. Even if the police tell you that they believe you're 50% at fault, doesn't necessarily mean you're 50% at fault. That's why you want to contact a lawyer to talk through these issues. You have to understand the insurance companies, they know about the 50-50 rule, and you may not. And so when you have an initial conversation with an insurance company, they say, well, we're looking at it. My client accepts some responsibility, or my insured accepts, or policyholder accepts some level of responsibility, but we think it's kind of a 50-50 deal. That's code word. What they're really saying is, we're not going to pay you because you're in a state where 50-50 and you're out. So that's what a modified comparative negligence state is, and that's what Colorado is. Many other states operate under what's called pure comparative negligence. And what that simply means is you can only recover from the other person the percentage of your damages equal to the percentage of their fault. So if the other driver is 50% at fault and you're 50% at fault, then in those states you can recover 50% of your damages. If you're even 75% at fault, but the other driver's 25% at fault, in a pure comparative negligence state, you can actually still recover 25% of your damages. So I would encourage people not to jump to conclusions about fault and how it's going to play out. There are a lot of facts and circumstances that we investigate and look into, and it may seem like you're partially at fault, and then we find out the other person had drugs or alcohol in their system, or they were texting and driving, or whatever it may be. So I would encourage people not to be caught up on or concerned so much about their own fault until they've had an opportunity to reach out to a lawyer, speak to the lawyer, present all of the facts, let a preliminary discussion occur, and then there can be some determination as to, do you fall in a state where it's a 50-50 rule? Is it a pure comparative negligence state? And you get a better understanding of what your rights are in that particular state and under the circumstances.